Well, hey there, and welcome to this lesson of the church video series. You caught us on a good day. We have a very exciting lesson today talking about framing and composition of video shots. One of the best techniques that you can learn if you're someone who goes out and shoots church video is how to properly and adequately and skillfully frame and composite your shots. If you just go out and start shooting whatever you see, you're not going to get the best footage possible. Can I be really honest with you right now? Because I've had this problem in a very big way. The very first time that I got asked by a video production company to come out and be a second shooter for them, I went out very enthusiastically, gave it my all, but when we got back and we were looking at the footage, I remember the boss said, "This is unusable. It lacks basic technique." And I was shocked when I heard that for the first time because I had never heard anything negative said about anything I'd ever done in video in any way before, ever. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that he was right. You see, when I first started shooting my own videos and films, I was so hung up on the visual effects and the coolness and using a crane or a Steadicam and color grading that I had totally passed over fundamental techniques of framing and composition. And so when I went out on a shoot for the first time without those crutches, my lack of fundamental skills was exposed. So after that embarrassing day, I went out and learned the basics about framing and compositing as much as I could. And today, I want to share that knowledge with you guys. The first thing you need to know about framing your videos is that the frame of your video is the world of your video. The frame equals the world. And that means that how your subjects are positioned within that frame is extremely important. Think of a song. Every song has elements, and every one of those elements fulfills a certain role. Most songs have a verse, a chorus, and a bridge. The verse is introductory and lower in energy. The chorus, high energy and climactic. And the bridge is what ties everything together. Of course, those are big generalizations, but the point I'm getting at is that each element in a song serves a specific purpose. And in the same way, the way that you frame the subjects within your video and the way that you composite your shots serves a very particular purpose, and it will say something about your video. Because when people watch your video, all they have is that frame, and that frame is their world. So let's look at the three specific elements of framing and composition. Using these three elements, you'll be able to frame your shots and subjects in a way to get the tone and the feeling that you're after. Number one, positioning. Where is your subject in your frame? Are they in the center of the frame and thus the center of the world? Are they the center of our attention and the most important thing in the world right now? Are they off to the side? If they are off to the side, they're part of the world and an important figure, but not necessarily the center of everything. As you can see, little things like this, like the positioning of your subject within your frame, say big things, even if they're in a subtle way, about your video to your audience. So, the next time you shoot someone in a frame, think about the positioning and how that relates to the overall story that you're trying to tell. Number two, angle. Angles also play a big role in storytelling and what you're trying to say to your audience. Let's say that you're filming someone in an interview. The way the angle of your camera is pointed at that person will say a lot about their message. If the camera is tilted up at your subject, what does this resemble in real life? What it would be is maybe a child looking up to a parent or a younger boy looking up to an older mentor. And by tilting your camera up at your subject, this conveys the feeling of authority and power of that particular person. The other day I was on YouTube and I stumbled across this clip of Mark Driscoll. Check it out. So this is a clip of Mark Driscoll preaching, the pastor from Mars Hill Church, and as you can see, the camera is tilted up at him. The camera is below him and it's pointed up, and this gives Mark a much greater feeling of authority and power. And I can tell you, this is not done accidentally. The creative team and video team at Mars Hill is doing this purposely to add that much more power to his message. Conversely, looking down on someone in a camera angle will give the opposite feel. If in real life you're looking down on someone, you're most likely someone with authority who is older than someone, or you're just tall. Finally, if you're shooting straight or level with your subject, that's going to give the feeling of an equal or a peer. And if I'm shooting baptism videos or testimony videos, I always like to use this angle or lack of angle because it gives off the feeling, the subtle feeling, that we are equals. And that's true because we're all part of one body made up of equal parts. And number three, distance. Naturally, the distance between your camera and your subject will also play a big role in the feeling and storytelling of the shot. So let's take a look at a couple examples. First, we have our traditional medium distance shot. This is what it might look like if you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone at a restaurant or in a living room. It's a safe distance that's comfortable, but it's still intimate. Now, using that as a baseline, as we move in either direction, we either get a feeling of intimacy or we get a feeling of distance. Here's an extreme close-up. The subject's face is actually filling and extending past the frame. This is intimacy at its most extreme. This shot is saying, "You're seeing my soul. Nothing is hidden." On the flip side, we have a faraway distance shot, and this makes us feel completely detached from the person and the situation. We're just a fly on the wall, creeping off in the distance. So those are the three basic elements of framing. Using them side by side and in conjunction with one another, you can get some very cool compositions that are going to be very purposeful in telling the story that you want to tell. I'll leave you with a cool real-life Hollywood example. Next time you watch a big-budget Hollywood film, identify the protagonist and the antagonist, the bad guy and the good guy, and rewatch how they're introduced to the audience. As Westerners, we read from left to right, and that's comfortable to us. And because of this, the protagonist, the good guy, will often be introduced to the audience walking from outside of the frame, left into right. It's just a subtle nod to him being the good guy. Conversely, often the bad guy will enter from the right to the left, and this is just a subtle feeling of uncomfort. We know he's the bad guy, and we know he's up to no good. Cool, huh? Framing and compositions, a pretty big deal. Well, that's all for this episode of the Church video series. Make sure you head over to prochurchtools.com and get your free Pro Church Toolkit if you haven't already. 5 ebooks and videos and a 10-part church media course called Church Media Experts. Make sure you go do that, and I will see you guys in next week's lesson.